Hi there, this is Daniel Hoadley from ICLR. We're the organisation responsible for producing the well-loved law report titles, the law reports and the weekly law reports. And one of the things that we've been working on for the past year, myself and Paul McGrath, ICLR's head of product development, who on Twitter is better known as Maggot Law, is a new online platform to make getting your hands on case law much easier. Now, we've been offering case law online for the better part of 6 years, but up until now, we've never ventured that far into the open law space. And when Paul and I sat down a couple of years ago to think about what we wanted to build, a big part of our joint direction going forward was to build an online service that made it easier to get access to case law for free. So we've been locked in our development room on the 4th floor of our office on Chancery Lane for the past year or so, building away, and we've got to the point where we actually have something that works. So this is a very lo-fi demonstration of where we've got to. We launched the full product on the 15th September. That, at the time of recording, is next Friday. What I'm going to show you at the moment isn't meant to be a slick sales demo. It's really just a very quick whistle-stop tour of what we've built, why we think it's important, and how it might help you if you do case law research online. So we're looking at the main interface of the new platform. I'm not logged in. I'm going to proceed through this as if I don't have a paid subscription, so that you can see what you can do on here without paying any money. So one of the ideas behind the way we've designed this new platform is to try and make this research database not feel like a research database. So when we were sketching the original designs, strangely enough, we didn't really look at any legal product. We weren't looking at Westlaw or LexisNexis. We weren't looking at Bailey. We spent more of our time looking at things completely unrelated to law. For example, Spotify, Airbnb, the Guardian's website, because what we wanted to do was make something that didn't feel clunky and over-egged. We wanted something that felt familiar and followed the norms of online applications that we use in our day-to-day lives, because that will just make it easier for you to jump on and understand how it works and how to get it to do what you want it to do. So the very first thing that you'll see when you come on is this display here. And the idea here is that we show you new content moving through the system and categorize it by a high-level topic, so that if you're interested in, for example, I'm interested in crime, if I just want to very quickly see what's going on in the criminal courts and what they're churning out, I can very quickly see on here that we've got a new criminal case up here, or I can drill down and just limit the feed to only criminal cases. Now, there isn't much in here at the moment because, as I said, the development isn't complete and we're running it on a limited data set. But the idea is that this is a place you can come to. You can filter down to the content that you want to see quickly. If you register a free account, so again, you don't have to pay any money, you can personalize your feed to show you content that you're interested in particular. So at the moment, I've just set my feed to show me public law cases. Now I'm just going to log back out so that we stay in completely free-to-air mode. So just to kind of give you a very quick spin through this, I'm going to base the restless demo on the now notorious Twitter joke trial, which is a fascinating case that set Twitter on fire a few years back, and I think it's a glowing example of bad jokes and a terrible application of the code for Crown prosecutors and the decision to prosecute. But there you go. But it's an interesting case. It's a good one because most people know it. It's a good one for me because I reported it. So let's just say I've come on here and I'm interested in cases to do with tweets and Twitter. I can just come up to this little top box and search for tweets. Nice and easy. There isn't a case name field and a free text field and a this field and a that field. It's just one search box. Hit go, and it brings you up with a list of results, which is nice. And in the list of results, rather helpfully, I can see a list of all of the cases, by default ordered in terms of what the system deems to be the most relevant, and it shows me at a glance where the term I've searched for appears within the context of the document, the high-level subject matter, and all of the various law report references, ICLR references and non-ICLR references, where I can find the report I'm interested in looking at, if I'm interested in looking at a report. On the left here, I've got a range of facets, and what these do is they let me jump around the results quickly to get to bits of content that I'm most interested in. So, for example, let's just say I want to see judgments from the divisional court that contain the word tweets. Click on that, and it's got rid of every other result that didn't contain a divisional court decision, and it's left me now with these two results: Dallas and the case in question, Chambers and the DPP. So let's have a little look and let's see what we can see with this case at the moment. We're not logged in. To all intents and purposes, I'm not a customer. This is all for free. So let's give this case a click, and the very first thing I'm taken to is what we call at ICLR the index card, and this is where we gather information together about the case that updates over time. So, for example, we've got the high-level subject matter, and what this does is it drills down to what the live issues were in the case. We can record the case's appellate history. There isn't any appellate history here. This was done and dusted in the divisional court. We can see which cases were materially considered in the case in question. In this case, anyone familiar with the case will know that Collins featured quite heavily in the court's judgment and was in effect applied. We can see words and phrases arising out of written enactments, in this case legislation, that were materially in play as well. So in this case, a number of the issues turned on whether or not the tweet in question was of a menacing character and whether or not a tweet was a message. So that's just some basic information that we get off the bat that puts the case that we're looking at into some broader context. So that's the index card. Let's move on to richer content. One of the things that we do at ICLR for every significant case is to produce a summary of the decision, normally within 24 hours or so of the judgment coming down. The idea of the summary is to give users of this type of information advanced sight in a abridged, convenient, easy to digest form of what the case was about and what was decided. And Chambers was a significant case, so a summary was produced, in this case by me, and we can view that summary on here. Here's the summary. And the summary is full of information. These are really valuable resources. We don't charge any money for them. And I think there's a good argument for saying that they're woefully underutilized, but they're here if you want them. And the summary goes quite a long way to trying to give you really the essence of what each case is about. So, for example, the very first thing that happens here in this summary is a proposition is formulated, which attempts to encapsulate the point for which the case stands as authority. So this is a fairly pithy, compressed statement of the ratio in chambers. We have some very basic factual and procedural material in here. The idea is that we only include what's absolutely relevant to the ratio. And then we have a synthesis of the operative parts of the judgment in question. So here, this drills down a paraphrased narrative of what Lord Judge said in relation to the tweet about the airport and Chambers' liability in relation to it. So that's there. And what these are really good for is providing busy practitioners or lay users with a reasonably accessible, intellectually accessible account of what the case is about without them having to jump headfirst into the judgment itself. What of the judgment itself? Well, we're going to want to see that if it's important, and we can do that on here too. So let's bring our index card back and come over here to the neutral citation, give that a click, and we have the judgment as handed down. So I've looked at the index card, I've got some broad context about the case and maybe what's happened to it since. I've had a look at the summary, so I'm fairly clear now on what the gist of the case was and what the ratio was. And now I can delve deep into the primary source itself. We like to move things around electronically. We like to share things on Twitter. We like to put things on blogs. We can do all of that from here as well. So I can tweet a link to this case. I can grab a link that I can put onto my blog. I can email it to someone else. I can print it. I can download it as a PDF and do something else with it. That's all there. So that's just a very quick overview of what type of content is available, what it looks like, what you might want to use it for. And I suppose the point that's worth making is that at least I'm not aware of any other resource in the English jurisdiction that would provide all three of those layers of material available for free. So we've got the index card, we have the summary, and we have the transcript. All of that is available here without you even needing to register for an account. You can just come on, do a search, find it, take it away, and do whatever. If you are a practitioner that's planning to go into court, you've also got the link for the actual law report here. This is the report, the case in the weekly law reports. If you click on that, you're going to hit a paywall. We can't give it all away for free, but I think being reasonable about it, I think we've certainly offered up enough in front of the paywall for users who don't have access to Westlaw and Lexis and things like that to really dive down into the material. Very, very quickly, just some other bits and pieces to show you on this. I've already shown you the main landing page, and the idea here is that we've got a really simple search, just one box. It's Google-esque. Obviously, it's nowhere near as clever as Google search engine, but I can just start typing a case, and it will begin to make suggestions for me. So if I want to look for Horncastle, I don't even have to type the whole name of the case in. It's going to give me help as I type, which is useful. And again, isn't available on any other free legal database. I can access the full search as well. So if I want to perform something particularly exotic, I can. I have all of the traditional fields. I can browse by legal topics. I can pick crime and dive through and approach the database from that angle. I can browse particular series of reports if I want to, and the transcripts themselves. So that functionality is available too. And the other area that ICLR is beginning to dip its toe into, semi-reluctantly, but we're looking at it, is legislation. As an organisation, we really just care about case law. That's kind of what we were set up to deal with. But legislation is obviously important. And what we've done is incorporated legislation by plugging into the National Archives legislation.gov.uk API. That allows us to access that database and bring legislation back into our own system so that we can give you access to it from one place. And I'll just give you a quick look at how that's coming out. So, let's have a look for some fraud. Got a nice list of results. The long title just gives me a feel for what each piece of legislation is about. Let's pull up an act, fraud act, and I can navigate through each section here on the left. We're pulling back the status notifications from legislation.gov.uk because some parts of their database still aren't up to date. So we want to make sure that you know whether or not the legislation you're looking at is an accurate reflection at this point in time of where the legislation stands. But you have access to that here as well. And as is common with everything else I've already shown you on here, you have access to it for free. So that's a very quick, very quick and dirty spin through the product we've been building for the last year. You can access it at the moment at ICLR.3.iclr.co.uk. And let me just type that in here, ICLR3.iclr.co.uk. So you can have a play around with that. And if you've got any feedback, be sure to drop it onto Twitter. You can point to ICLR at the ICLR. And yeah, hopefully it's of some use to you. Thanks.